My name is Beulah and I'm from the Digital Events team in GovHack. I welcome you to the 2021 Digital Conference. Before we begin, let's pause to reflect on the fact that we reside on lands of the world's oldest living civilization. I pay my respects to the peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land where I'm streaming this event from. I acknowledge the traditional custodian of the various lands from where all of you are watching, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples participating in GovHack. I pay my respects to elders past and present and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of Australia. So tonight we'll be joined by Phil Bickerdike. He is the Asia Pacific Australian and Pacific Regional Director of LUMA Institute. So tonight's title of the talk will be Using Design Thinking to Create Better Solutions to Your Challenges. And the part one of tonight is problem framing. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks very much, Beulah, for that introduction. And welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be with you here tonight. So yes, today we're going to be talking about using design thinking to create better solutions to your challenges. Just a little bit of information about me. My name's Phil. I'm from Geelong in Australia, and I'm the LUMA Regional Director for this part of the world. I'm a designer. I came into practicing human-centered design later in my career, probably about 10 years ago. But I used to be an engineer and a computer scientist. And what I've always been excited about solving problems and really been energized by solving problems. And when I started out my career as an engineer and computer scientist, most of those problems I was solving were very technical problems. But then through different circumstances, I came to work with a different group of people who are designers and user researchers. And it sort of opened my eyes in this new perspective to a different way of working, which was design thinking. And what was refreshing about it was realizing that the problems I was solving were in the service of people, and that keeping people top of mind, keeping a human-centered focus to the work that I was doing, meant that I could add more value to the people that I was serving and the problems I was solving. So that's my journey into design thinking. And it's been a really great way to actually conduct my work ever since. So I'm really excited to be here, excited to meet you all, and excited to be part of GovHack this year as well. So I wanted to start off a little bit with just talking a little bit about design thinking more generally. And the first thing I'd like to say is that good design is good business. This is a quote that comes from Thomas Watson, the founder and chairman of IBM. It's something that I think we can all appreciate, that when things are designed well, it's going to be good for business. And McKinsey have done some studies into this as well, and they've created what they call the design maturity index, and these studies have shown that those organizations that invest in mature design practices outperform revenue benchmarks by 2 to 1. So we're starting to see a lot of data to support actually investment in design in terms of better outcomes for customers. But what does that mean for the public service, for the public sector and government services? Well, there's a quote here from Ben Terrett, head of design in the UK Government Digital Service. And I think it's really important to see it in this perspective as well. I think in the past, there's been an assumption that if it's in the public sector, it doesn't have to be as good as in the private sector. And that is ridiculous. As designers, we're working to make people's lives better, and we're working to save billions of pounds. The ambition should be sky high. So we see here the opportunity to take a design-led approach, not only in business, where we see delivering customer value, but also delivering value in the public sector as well by applying a design mindset. And closer to home, this is a quote from Gavin Jennings here in Australia. It says, government has a responsibility to our citizens to continuously improve. From looking at how we work internally to providing more seamless service to citizens, we're constantly designing ways to be better. And so GovHack is all really about trying to make things better, create better services, and use government data in new and interesting ways to innovate services for citizens. So we're here to help. LUMA Institute it equips individuals, teams, and organizations to accelerate innovation and transformation all around the world. We're a global organization, very, very proud to be a part of this organization based here in Australia. And many of the organizations we've worked with, from private enterprise, large well-known names here in Australia and overseas, but also we've had opportunity to work with members of the government sector and government departments, and it's been a great opportunity to do that both here in Australia and internationally. So how many people here would consider themselves to be a designer? I suppose, you know, many of you don't necessarily come from a design background. So I wanted to assure you that this really is for everybody. And I draw upon this definition of design that comes from Herb Simon, who said, everyone designs who devises courses of action aimed at changing existing situations into preferred ones. And I'm sure we can all see ourselves in this. In everything that we do, we're always seeking to make things better and change our existing situation. And so design thinking is an approach to design, this way we actually make change in the world, that thing we can all do, that helps you create better solutions to your challenges. And when we think about the challenges we're going to be working on in the GovHack hackathon, it's really important to think about how we can create the best solutions possible to these challenges. And design thinking is a great way in which we can do that. Design thinking is also known as human-centered design. It's a way of problem solving that really calls upon 6 key innovative behaviors. And I wanted to talk a little bit about these behaviors today. The first one, questioning, then empathetic, visual, imaginative, iterative, and collaborative. So I'm going to be stepping through each of these different behaviors to try and illustrate the value of taking a design-led approach when we're working on challenges. So firstly, let's talk about questioning. Often we're given a problem to solve, and it's a natural tendency we have to jump right to a solution. And somewhere along the line, we might think about, you know, various different solutions that may be possible before honing in on a final solution there. Ideally, though, we want to try and be as broad as possible in thinking about the different types of solutions we could apply to that problem. So when we think about solving a problem, we create a number of choices around different possible ways to solve that problem, and then we make some choices in terms of, you know, refining our selection on a final solution. But why are we solving that problem in the first place? Sometimes it serves us to actually challenge that problem and really interrogate that problem to try and understand that problem better before we start jumping into coming up with solutions. So we want to understand why this problem exists in the first place and explore what that problem really means. And so as is illustrated here, we want to think widely and broadly about that problem itself, and then define what that problem might actually be about. We call this mode of thinking divergent and convergent thinking. And it's important that we think about understanding the problem before we go to solving that problem. And this model is called the double diamond. It comes from the UK Design Council. And it has these 4 phases of discovering what the problem is, defining what that problem is, designing a solution, and then delivering that solution. And so we're not just thinking about the solution itself, but we're actually thinking about how do we question the problem? How do we question the question that we've been asked to solve before we move into the mode of actually trying to solve that problem? And by doing this, we're going to come up with much more innovative and more powerful solutions to the real problem that is at the heart of that. So that's the first behavior, questioning. How do we question things? The next behavior I want to talk about within the context of design thinking is being empathetic. And we can think about this spectrum of things that we, from moving from technologies to products, services, and experiences. Technology is really a commodity. There are lots of different technologies that exist, and they can be commoditized quite easily. But what really differentiates, what really adds value to people is experiences. And if we think about, you know, services in the government context, it may not necessarily be about making money from a customer point of view, but it might be about differentiating public services so that people find them a great experience, easy to use and utilize those services. So we want to start from this end of understanding what is a desirable experience. And that's through understanding people's experiences and what's important to them. We're putting people at the heart of that, really considering what their needs are and how we can add value to them in delivering these services. And from that, we can work back to the service that's going to support that experience, the product that may be a part of that service, and the technology that may underpin all of that as well. But really starting with that people and human-centered focus first, will help us really design better services and better offerings for those people to really meet their needs. The next behavior I want to talk about is being imaginative. And we sit here, we exist in our existing current context. And what we want to do is we want to imagine a preferred future state, something that doesn't exist yet. That takes imagination. That takes us some creativity, some creative thinking. And we observe things in the real world. We can, based on our own real experiences. And it's through imagination, we can then abstract our thinking and start to think about, different possibilities, different possible ways of seeing the world. And through that abstract thinking, really thinking imaginatively about possibilities, we can then find our way through to what might be a preferred future state in the real world, something we can actually deliver. And so again, we can discover problems, we can discover things that are happening in the real world. We can abstract our thinking to define what we think is really going on here. And then we can design new ways to actually deliver value into the world. The next behavior we talk about within the context of design thinking is being visual. You think about the word truck. If I was to say truck, we may be thinking about completely different sorts of trucks, maybe imagining different things in our mind's eye. But through using visual communication, we can actually start to visualize what it is that we're thinking and even work together to come to a common understanding of what we really mean by a truck. The next behavior is being collaborative. So we all have great ideas. We can all work on things for ourselves and we can produce things on our own. But what if we were to bring the power of different perspectives to that work? And it's by sharing different perspectives that we're able to create even greater value and more valuable, better outcomes. So the key message here is that when we're working collaboratively, we are better together. And it's a great opportunity through this program to collaborate with one another, to draw upon the different skills that you may have in a multidisciplinary team to produce something which is going to serve a better outcome. And the next behavior is being iterative. Often we start on a project and we think about what that final solution might look like, and then we go ahead and we can go and build that thing that we've imagined. And then we might deliver that to our intended user, our intended customer, and they might say, well, this isn't quite what I intended. So studies have shown that the cost of making changes throughout this process increases dramatically. So if we're going to make a change to something that we're delivering at a concept stage, it might cost 1x. If you want to make that same change while you're already building it, it's going to cost you 10 times as much. And if you want to make that change when you go to release it, then it's going to cost you 100 times as much. So what we encourage with design is to actually think iteratively, to maybe build something small that we can use to test and learn from that and continue this testing process throughout so that when we finally get to the outcome, we know we're going to be meeting the needs of our intended user. The other thing too around, often asking for feedback and frequently doing this is it helps us in this time and love continuum, because as we know, the more time we spend with something, the more we fall in love with it. And so we want to encourage ourselves into this mode of thinking where we can get feedback earlier in the process so that we're not too invested in the way that we've sort of started to develop our solution. So these are the 6 behaviors that we talk about within design thinking. The 6 behaviors that are really important to actually delivering greater value and addressing challenges in a more powerful way. So you may ask, how does one get really good at design thinking? And this is where the LUMA system comes in. LUMA has developed a system for supporting design thinking, and it's been written about in the Harvard Business Review as a really practical, versatile approach to design thinking. Now, it may look a little bit overwhelming, but there are 36 methods in the LUMA system. And each of these methods have been organized into 3 skill sets of looking, understanding, and making. And this is a very comprehensive and very well curated set of methods from the world of design. Now, when we think about the looking skill set, these are the methods that we use for observing human experience. And within that skill set of looking, we have 3 subcategories of methods: ethnographic research, participatory research, and evaluative research. And at different points in the work that we do, we can call upon these different ways of looking at things and observing human experience to inform the way that we are doing our work. When we think about understanding, there are 3 categories of understanding methods. There are methods for understanding people and systems, for patterns and priorities, and for framing problems. They're ways of analysing our challenges and the opportunities that those challenges present. And the final skill set is making. And this is where we're envisioning future possibilities. And there are 3 subcategories there as well. First, concept ideation, which is a way of coming up with new ideas. Modelling and prototyping, which is a way of bringing our ideas and making them tangible, representing our ideas in a way. And then design rationale, which is a way of promoting and improving your solutions. So this comprehensive set of methods, 36 methods in the LUMA system, are ways that we can engage with applying design to the challenges we want to solve. The LUMA system is a system. It's not a process, but it's a methodology and a discipline that underpins all kinds of processes and ways of working. And so it's very appropriate to the sort of challenges that we'll be working on in GovHack, because it allows us to quite flexibly apply some of the design thinking to the challenges that we are solving as a team. If we're used to working within particular processes, the LUMA system can be applied within those sorts of methodologies as well, or it can simply be identified to solve everyday challenges. And the way we use the LUMA system is through a combination of these methods called recipes. And these recipes can help us achieve particular goals and particular outcomes by applying different methods in sequence. So what I wanted to do today is introduce you to a platform called LUMA Workplace. And LUMA Workplace is powered by LUMA, and everyone who participates in the GovHack program this year will be given a 3-month license for LUMA Workplace to use, not only during the event itself, but continue to use in their work after their participation in GovHack. So today I wanted to take the opportunity to give you a bit of an introduction to LUMA Workplace, the capability that it has, and then I wanted to focus in on a recipe that we can use for framing problems, framing the challenges that we're given and understanding them in a better way. So if I go over to LUMA Workplace here, this is what you will see when you first come into LUMA Workplace. And there is a range of ways to get started engaging with the LUMA system and engaging with design thinking. These are short videos that you can watch to help understand how to apply design thinking to your work. When you see this on the homepage here, the key question we want to ask is, how can we help you innovate today? Our approach at LUMA is always to think about how we can help people solve their challenges and innovate in the work that they are doing. And you'll see a range of different suggestions about how you can go about doing that. Could be around conquering everyday challenges, or it could be for strategies within your particular job. I'll come back to this in a moment, but what I wanted to do is give you a bit of a navigation, a bit of a guide through how to get around LUMA Workplace and how to get the most value out of that. If we go to methods, this is where we find all of the subcategories from the LUMA system. And if we go to browse the 36 methods of the LUMA system, we will see all of the methods that exist within the LUMA system itself. So if we wanted to understand more about any of these particular methods, say we're thinking about problem framing as an example, we can come down here and we can see there are 4 different methods for problem framing. If I choose one of these methods, say abstraction laddering. Abstraction laddering is a way of reconsidering a problem by broadening or narrowing its focus. And when we think about the challenges we're going to be working on, having an opportunity to explore what that problem might be by broadening the focus that you may have as a team, or narrowing a focus into a different aspect you may want to tackle, this could be an ideal method to use within the context of those particular challenges. We see some examples here of abstraction ladder, and we see the benefits of the abstraction ladder are identified here as well. Some of the benefits are that it helps us challenge our preconceptions. So we all come to problems with a different point of view. So we can use this to help us to challenge those preconceptions. can help us refocus a problem statement that we're coming to as a team, build a shared understanding, and provide a direction for problem solving. Some other resources that are available to you here, there's a quick guide to guide you through actually using this method, and some helpful hints that you can apply as well. Also, for each of the methods on the LUMA Workplace, we have a step-by-step guide. So if you want to get an idea of how to execute this method, there's a short video that you can watch that will guide you through how to actually apply that method. So I wanted to dive into some of the recipes that are associated with this particular method of abstraction laddering, and I can find that here by clicking on the recipes. And the recipe I wanted to talk about today, which I think is going to be really appropriate to the GovHack event, is questioning the question with a remote team. So if I click through here, I can see from the recipe of question a question with a remote team, it gives me a guidance on step-by-step how to execute this series of methods. It begins with abstraction ladder, then it's followed by another method called statement starters, and followed by visualize the vote. So I want to step us through this and understand how we can use this in the context of the challenges that we're working on. So starting with abstraction laddering can be used to frame the problem itself. And you'll see here an estimated time of approximately 45 minutes that it might take for us to go through this process. If I click on the detailed steps, I'm able to see step by step how to actually execute this method. And so the abstraction ladder starts with the why. We start to question, why are we doing this? Why is this important? To broaden our focus. And then once we've done that, then we can move to the bottom part of the ladder, which is how. How do we go about this challenge that we're facing? What are the different ways in which we could approach this and ways we can explore this challenge itself? Following the abstraction ladder, we can then use this technique to create opportunity statements using statement starters. So statement starters is the second method in this recipe. And again, you will see there's a time, approximately 45 minutes to execute this method. And again, some detailed steps about how to go about executing this method of statement starters. Statement starters is a great technique for framing questions in a really powerful, provocative way that's going to help you create greater, more powerful solutions to your challenges. So if I open up statement starters here, give you an example of what that looks like. So statement starters, as it says here, an approach to phrasing problem statements that invites broad exploration. We're talking about framing our problems in a way that we want to give ourselves the best chance of coming up with some great ideas, some great solutions. And so this technique, using how might we, is a fantastic way, or in what ways might we, how to, are great ways to open up our thinking, to think about lots of different possible ways to solve the challenge. So the benefits here of statement starters, it can challenge our assumptions. It helps us see different perspectives, and it can provide a direction for problem solving and invite divergent thinking. As we saw before, that way of actually making lots of choices, giving ourselves lots of possible ways to solve this challenge, the statement starter can really fuel that creative, innovative process. Then once we've done our statement starters, the final method in this recipe is to illuminate preferences using visualize the vote. And visualize the vote is a technique for getting people to vote on what they think is the best way forward. Again, in this recipe, there's a detailed step-by-step guide on how to execute that. And if I go again to the visualize the vote method, give you a quick idea of what that looks like in practice. So visualize the vote is a quick poll of collaborators to reveal preferences and opinions. And you'll see from the picture here that people are casting their votes using post-it notes to physically indicate what their preference is based on those posters. But of course, we can use this in different modes as well. And so there's another series of examples about how we might want to use this technique, even using digital techniques as well, digital tools. So this recipe of questioning the question with a remote team can really help us to explore the problem, the challenge that we have been given to work on, and then also to refine our perspective on that challenge and reframe it in such a way that's going to really help us set us up for success in solving that challenge. So the other thing I wanted to touch on here is the other resources that are available within the context of this recipe for Luma Workplace. This tab here has a facilitation guide, and the facilitation guide includes a range of different video content and facilitation tips on how to execute any of these methods. So, you know, prior to the event itself or during the event, if you want to get an idea of how these methods really work quite effectively and how to get the best value out of these methods, then you can utilize the resources that are here in these facilitation tips. So there are videos for each of the methods: abstraction laddering, statement starters, and even visualize the vote. Lots of different tips on how to execute those methods most effectively. The other thing we have here from Luma Workplace is we can launch a template using online collaboration tools directly from the platform itself. So if I click on use a template now, I can open this template using either Mural or using Miro. So if I open this template in Mural, for example, and this is particularly powerful if we're working with a remote team, we can see the different methods and the templates created there in the Mural board for us to use immediately. We simply just need to create a template, create a mural from that template, and when we can then use this, share this with our team, and execute those methods using that template directly on Mural. So this first method here, abstraction laddering, will guide us through how to actually work on each of those different methods that we need to do, and step-by-step guides and notes here indicated on the template itself. So that's Luma Workplace. That's the recipes that you have available to you, and particularly that first recipe I wanted to talk about today, which is around framing problems. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity to be a part of GovHack this year. And I'm looking forward to speaking again next week, when we're going to talk about some other Luma recipes that we can use for thinking about coming up with great ideas to solve these challenges, and also on refining those ideas and testing those ideas through rapid iteration. So I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks for that, Phil. Greatly appreciate you coming on board with us, and
how to approach hackathons in general, and I'll tell you about the hacker mindset and the values that we encompass when it comes to participating in hackathons. And then the last thing is the secret sauce to managing a winning team. So at my first hackathon, it was a long time ago now, but it was such a great experience. I went in, I did not study IT or engineering or coding. Entrepreneurship was not even a thing when it came to university in my days. But it was, for me, a great opportunity to meet a lot of startup founders. I never even knew what a startup was. I thought it was a starter in bread, like some sort of yeast. I didn't know much about business skills, but all I knew was that I had a passion, and I had a passion around creating a sustainable future. So in this hackathon, the first one, I met all these people that I'd never met before. I'd never met Rachel. I hadn't even met there was this guy who was 11 years old when he first went to his first hackathon, and we came together. And the rich thing about hackathons is that it's okay if you've never been to a hackathon before. I found that hackathons have allowed me to gain confidence in my skills and also learn new skills. I learned about user experience and user design, and I absolutely love that. I learned a little bit about coding. It's not my specialty, but now I know what it's like to be in the shoes of someone who is a more technical person. And I found that my skill sets was around leadership, around strategy. So I really loved going through the whole hackathon experience. It's going to be up and down. You're going to be thrown into a lot of challenges, but again, you're going to meet all these amazing people who have the same values and same passions as you. And I really want all of you to take any ideas that you have, take any skills and strengths that you encompass, and share that openly with everyone, because it really is a great open community. So firstly, what is a hackathon? Now, a hackathon is a short pressurized process where ideas are designed, developed, deployed, and demonstrated. So it's really just like a lot of what we call like I remember once on Facebook, I put this question out and one guy said, oh, it's like a night out for tech geeks, which is pretty funny because it's really looking into how we can be really creative. We can put a lot of diverse mindsets and skill sets together and do something that is meaningful on this world and planet. So really we're here to create change that's meaningful and can create movements all around the world. So what actually happens at a hackathon? So during a hackathon, if this is your first one, this is some of the things that you'll be experiencing. The first thing is getting into teams. So you'll be meeting people that are strangers to you, but by the end of this, there'll be a massive sense of camaraderie around this. You'll make new friends, especially during these online experiences. You do a lot of empathy mapping. So you'll try to understand what it's like to be in the shoes of a customer. You do a lot of creative thinking. So thinking outside the box, thinking how you can be creative in a way that's blue sky thinking or in a way that you can join different dots from different things together. And then the last thing is hacking solutions. And hacking to us is not about going through an IT system and exposing data. Yes, that is one form of hacking, but the second form of hacking is actually bringing ideas and breathing life into them. So what does a minimum viable team look like? Normally in a startup environment, we say a minimum viable team are the core skill sets required to start up a new project or to start up a new business. So generally you have the hipster, the hacker, and the hustler. So this is a framework. So you can say, some job descriptions here. So the hipster is the person who designs the user experience. They understand what the user needs are and solidifies and refines and defines the features and benefits for the user. The hacker looks into the APIs, looks into the technical aspects, and really creates the prototype. So they liaise a lot with the hipster as well as the hustler to ensure everything works. And the hustler is the person who looks into the business case. They look into the ecosystem, understand what the customer is willing to pay, as well as seeing how this will be really attractive to the judges at the end of the hackathon when you are presenting. Usually you have also a herder, and this is the person who is the leader of the group. And so it doesn't have to be the hustler or the hacker or the hipster, but really if you nominate someone who wants to improve on their leadership skills, this is where they come in. So what is the hacker mindset? The hacker mindset is a set of values that we speak about at hackathons. Ultimately, at hackathons, we want you to learn. So that means failing to learn whilst having fun learning. So what does this mean? Firstly, it means that you need to focus on the why. You need to understand where your passions are and why you are in this experience. Secondly, it's love what you do. We don't want this to be a draining exercise for you. Instead, we want this to be very energizing. We want it to be upbeat. We want everyone to be positive and really be in this for the right reasons. So secondly, love what you do. The third thing is empathy rules. And empathy means that you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And this is not assuming what you want the customer to do and to be, but it's just really understand what they see, think, feel, and do. A stands for ask questions. So ask and be curious. It's always good to ask questions to mentors, to the organizing team, to facilitators, just so you can clearly understand what the problem statement is so that you can respond with agility. So we don't want you to react, but we want you to understand the whole scenario and the whole environment so that you can respond in an agile way. And the last thing here is to network vigorously. What I do at hackathons and at a lot of events is that I listen to the speakers and I add them all on LinkedIn. I follow them on Twitter. I tweet them. I message them to thank them for their time. And also, I've used this as a real big base to accelerate my career. So what do I look for when recruiting teammates? So there are a couple of things that I look for. I look for a connection. I look to see how I can collaborate with someone. I see what I want to create and also what are the commitments at stake when it comes to this hackathon. So a lot of the time when you're introducing yourself to other people, you can say, "Hi, my name is Angela. During the week, I run hackathons. And so my skill sets are in facilitation, in really understanding the customer journey and storyline. What gets me excited is if I see other people grow in their skills and I take a part in being part of their successes. And I'm here at this hackathon because I want to really learn about say, machine learning and see how that could be integrated in hackathons. So this is an example of how you can do a quick hacker's pitch so that you are networking very quickly and rapidly with other people and your objectives are communicated at a very simple way. So what is the goal of hackathons? A lot of the time with hackathons, we follow the design thinking methodology. And I really like design thinking in terms of how it portrays what ideas should go ahead and don't go ahead. So we always say ideas need to come at the right time, for the right people, during any kind of given time that is available. So we always say, is it desirable, is it feasible, and is it viable? So desirable means that will a customer actually use it and actually be freed from any experiences so they feel like, oh, this is something that I'll actually use. Viability, is this something that the customer will actually pay for? And can you make a business case out of it? And the third thing is it feasible? So do you and your team have the skills to carry this forward? So whether that be the network, whether that be the technical skill sets, you need a bit of everything so that you're pitching yourself as a cohesive team to deliver on the project. So this is the Hacker Mindset template. You'll kind of receive a quick version of this, but I'm now going to go through this so that you know how to manage a winning team effectively. So the first phase is spot. So the three phases of the Hacker Mindset is spot, build, and go. So for spot, it stands for story, people, opportunity, and test. So for the story side of things, we want you to develop your own story that is emotive, compelling, and personal. So for example, in my experience talking to my grandmother, I found out that she found it really concerning going to the supermarket because there is just so many people with COVID going on right now. So now I try to ensure that anyone who is a senior citizen feels comfortable and safe when it comes to getting household supplies. So it's always good to hear when it comes to developing your own story, and not just your own story, but listening to all the stories for people in your team. It also shows that there's a personal touch to it as well. And one common thing when it comes to all the winners that we've interviewed during our winner spotlight interviews at Hackathons International is that all the people who win have a personal connection with the problem that they're solving for. P stands for people. So it's really important to take at least 5 to 10 minutes out of your time, especially at the start of the hackathon, so then you really understand who you're working with and who you're supporting. So I always tell people, always go around the table and say, you know, what is your purpose? So when I first started to go to hackathons, I really took it as an upskilling opportunity because I didn't learn about UX, UI, coding, entrepreneurship, business, investments, had no idea. So a lot of my purpose was around upskilling myself. It was also to network with the startup ecosystem because it was not an ecosystem that I grew around. My family very community oriented. So this network of building other people who also had the same mindset of me, who were really trying to think outside the box, that's a network that I wanted to engage with. I also wanted to win a lot of the prizes because there's good money on the line and there's also great programs available. And also to build up my portfolio because when I started doing hackathons, especially initially, I was trying to find a job in the IT sector, and that really propelled me to build a strong resume. And ultimately, at the back of my mind, I really wanted to start a startup in the future. Passion. So what do you want to work on? So it's always good to know what you're passionate about, and it's okay if you don't know what your passions are or lie. You can always say, hey, I'm open to testing my skills and just learning new experiences, and that's still okay. Participation, it's always very good to be clear around when you are available and at what times and what skills you have to offer. So for example, if you're a student, you may have classes on at 3 to 4 p.m. on a Friday. If you're a parent, you might be available during the day, and because your children are at daycare, or you need to look after your kids at night. So just be mindful about everyone's environment and where their heads are at, and also say how you can help. So whether that be with the presentation, with user research, with creating the prototype, just be clear so that everyone is on the same page. And the last thing is personal development. With every good leader, they're really mindful of the people in their team and aware of what skills that they want to improve on. So I always ask people on my team, what do you want to improve on and how do you think I can help you? So things like for me, as I said, maybe machine learning is something that I want to work on, creating bots, presentation skills, and mixed reality is something that's quite intriguing to me. So these are some things that you might want to think about. Okay, so stands for opportunity statement. And so opportunity statement is really an opportunity for you to communicate your innovation in 140 characters or less. So I actually studied a little bit of journalism at university, and they always told us to hop on Twitter and say that if you can communicate a newsworthy story within 140 characters or less, that's how you're going to capture the audience really quickly. So I encourage all of you to do this and also include the who, what, where, when, how, and why. And it's so important to do this because if you are meeting mentors, if you're at a barbecue with family and friends, you can easily communicate and try running your elevator pitch to them. So for example, you might say, your opportunity statement might be, I want to make everyone who is a senior citizen feel comfortable at home with a specialized delivery service. So doing that makes it really easy for you to just pitch, 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 and pitch. And once you get it right, you can tell everyone, and it'll be a good way so that when it comes to that final presentation at the end of the hackathon, you would have practiced a lot. The last thing is to test. So testing means that you are running some hypothesis, you're doing research and pivoting if you need it to, if you need to. So this is a little bit like a science experiment, you could say. So I always go, okay, what are the assumptions? We kind of have that opportunity statement. We spend 5 minutes writing all the assumptions down, and then another 5 to 10 minutes going through Google, looking into data and seeing what is out there. So when COVID-19 hit, we had quite a few assumptions, surprisingly, and a lot of people were participating in hackathons. And what I found was that a lot of people were assuming a lot. So they were assuming that the majority of elderly got coronavirus. There was an assumption there was not enough food for Australians, especially when all our shelves had no flour, no nothing. But when I really looked into it, Google actually taught me a lot of things. So the data, for example, I found was that early findings from China, which pertained to the first 17 people to die in the outbreak, revealed that the median age was 75. And a study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that the median age of the first 425 people infected with the virus was 59. So as you can see, this first assumption was validated. However, when it came to the second assumption, I actually found that according to the National Farmers Federation, imported food only accounts for 15% of daily supply. About 2/3 of Australia's produce is exported, meaning we make plenty more than we actually consume. And for farmers, it's pretty much business as usual. So it's really funny here because then you had to kind of pivot and go, okay, is it actually not enough food for Australians, or was there something wrong with the supply chain of food in Australia? So this is a really good way for you to just understand with the ideas that you have, is it worth pursuing or not? So the second phase of the hacker mindset is to build. So here I always put somewhere on a whiteboard or right smack bang on my screen, I go, what is the goal? What do we want to develop over the period of the hackathon, whether that be a specialized delivery service or whether that be an aggregation of supermarkets or whatever else it is, you need to define something that is achievable. Secondly, it's to put the pitch date and time. I always have a good countdown so I know how much time I have left, and I put my time in blocks, which I'll show you a little bit later, just so I've got some sprints and I can check in regularly with team members to see how we're going and we can work cohesively as a team. The third thing is a communication platform. So this is a good opportunity just to see how we communicate as a team, because there are just so many communication platforms out there. You really need to identify how you'll communicate as a team. And if you have urgent tasks, do you have each other's numbers so you can call people? So what is the process? The next thing is criteria. So it's absolutely it's so pivotal to know what the judging criteria is, because a lot of the time as an organizer and as a judge, I mark you out of 5 out of each of these. So make sure you have that honed in when it comes to putting your solution together. And then the last thing here is check-ins. So I always have check-ins with everyone on the team. It's kind of like a really quick sprint, you could say, every 2 or 3 hours. But generally, what happens is we talk about the 3 Ds. So firstly, we discuss what each person has achieved over the last time block. Secondly, we talk about the destination. So what do we want to achieve by the end and what is our end goal? And then after that, we look into the direction. So we reflect on what we need to start, stop, and restart. And doing this in a way that's ongoing is really important. So you also not only concentrate on your work, but you can also empathize and know what else is going on in the team, because ultimately it is teamwork. Now, this is one of the favorite slides of a lot of people at hackathons. This is my schedule and timetable when it comes to participating in the hackathon, and this is really good because everyone has their roles within a hackathon. It's never a one person, like it's so hard for one person to just do all these tasks. Like if you do that, kudos to you, and I know a lot of people who do it, but really if you want to maximize your time, you really need to harness the strengths of everyone in the team. That's why you have the hustler, hipster, and hacker kind of frameworks, so that will help you understand who will do what when. So normally on a Friday, everyone completes the hacker mindset or the SWOT side of things, and then we conceptualize the idea, do a lot of research, really find what's feasible in terms of the data and the APIs that are present for the hackathon. Then we need to agree on a final problem statement and also that minimum awesome products, so that minimum awesome products or prototype that you're going to display at the end of the hackathon. After that, everyone's doing their thing, whether they're getting customer feedback, scripting, filming, designing the wireframe, testing it out with the users, creating that working interface with all those added features, and also looking to the front end builds, connecting those APIs, aligning with all the features and making sure the prototype works. And at the end, don't forget to celebrate and really applaud yourselves for what you've achieved over the hackathon duration. I mean, a lot of the time we kind of just sit back and watch Netflix, but just imagine if you can actually create something out of nothing with a short amount of time. It is a massive success and everyone's a winner, not just the people who get the awards. Please be mindful of that. So the last thing and last phase is the go stage, and that stands for growth and optimization. So when you do your hackathon, make sure you have in mind how you're going to grow your business. And a lot of people forget about this. They forget what the return on investment is. They forget the go-to-market strategy. They forget around what the financial model is. So if you go through this really quickly, understand the customer, who you're targeting, what value that you're providing to them, creating some assets, video content, posters, or whatever, like brochures and that kind of thing to demonstrate that value to the customer. Hone down on the strategies and the channels that you're going to take, whether that be through online, through partners, through a partner program, for example. There are a lot of tactics that you can use. And also, what is the call to action? So when someone is a customer, they're hot and they're ready and they want to get your product, how do they actually get their hands on it? Make sure you put that as their next step. For O, this stands for optimize. So optimize means that you're always optimizing and continuously improving on the product that you are building. So normally if you work in the innovation landscape, so I used to head innovation at Schneider Electric in Pacific, we talk about the 3 horizons of innovation. So horizon 1 being the core business. So it's ongoing research and development, looking to new features, new products, ways that you're going to improve how you sustain your business. Horizon 2 is all around growth markets. So how can you use your existing resources to tap into new customers, look into new territories, and look into new, more target audiences? And Horizon 3 is more disruptive. So what are the new capabilities, maybe new investments or businesses that you're going to spin out to really complement what you do in the ecosystem? An example of how a company has done that is Disney. So their core business is, you could say, developing movie characters and creating movies. Their growth market is all around, for example, Disneyland and going to the theater. They've got the movie characters and films in different kind of experiences. So they're attracting people who are young, people who are teenagers, people who are adults like me. And then their disruptive business was when they launched Disney Plus. And that's when everyone had to pay a subscription model instead of you going and paying a movie ticket fee. You're paying a service fee or monthly reoccurring fee so that you've got access to all these films and animations and series. So that's very interesting to see how Disney has done it that way. So in summary, I just want to remind everyone that hackathons are for everyone to attend. Just like myself, you do not have to be in coding or IT or be a super nerd or anything. You just need a passion about something and really have a mindset of learning. So that's failing to learn whilst having fun learning. So don't forget, if you really want to win, the secret sauce to managing a winning team is to spot the opportunity, understand what you're going to build, and go. So reach out to your customers and tell them and amplify your value to them. So all of this is part of the Hacker Toolkit. You can access this on hackathonsinternational.com. So the first thing that we went through today was around team management. There's also other templates that you can access on rapid ideation, business models, lean canvas, and how to pitch like a pro. So what I want to leave you all with is that I want you to ride the wave, catch the wave, and make waves. We're here to not just be observers, but we're here to be hustlers. We need to be proactive and make a meaningful change for everyone in this world, for our planet to be sustainable and livable. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me. We are on Facebook. Our Facebook group is where all of our hackathon enthusiasts around the world talk and publicize hackathons. We're on Twitter, so you can get up to date with the news that's happening around the world. We're on LinkedIn as well. On YouTube, you can actually watch all the winning presentations of hackathons all around the world, just to give you an idea of what you could come up with. And also we interview all the winners. So, you know, you can get some insights and also get some tips and tricks from them. Visit our website. There'll be a list of hackathons for you to enter, and you can also access the Hacker Toolkit. And if you need any help, feel free to contact me at angela@hackathonsinternational.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy participating in hackathons. Happy hacking, and I'll see